Well, despite the whole world basically being on pause, the NFL still just refuses to stop. And to talk about what's been going on with the Philadelphia Eagles is NFL insider Adam Caplan. He is the co-host of Inside the Birds podcast, SiriusXM NFL Radio. Follow him on Twitter at Caplan NFL. Adam, how you doing today?
Josh, good to be with you. Hope the week is treating you well in radio there, and it's certainly challenging for a lot of us. I've been doing radio all week out of my I have a studio that I put together here in my office, and it's without radio, man, I don't know what I'd be doing all week.
I think that's a lot of people. A lot of people, if they don't have their regular go-to thing they do each day, they're kind of just searching for things. But the good thing is the NFL is keeping all of our attention, and among those things is the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm really glad I get a chance to talk to you because there are some things that have been going on with the Eagles these last couple of weeks. And I'm trying to, in my mind, piece together, and you and Jeff do a great job with the podcast Inside the Birds. And I just kind of wanted to give you some deeper questions on some of the stories. First, I want to start with Howie Roseman spoke to the media this week, and he said it himself, the elephant in the room, Alshon Jeffery. So I ask you, Adam, explain to the audience what the Eagles' message is about Alshon Jeffery and how that matches up with what they're actually trying to do with their future with Alshon Jeffery.
Yeah, Josh, just listen to Howie talk, and he's been very consistent. I was about 5 feet in front of him at the Combine last month, and when he talked about how the first thing is that Alshon Jeffery's got to get healthy. Well, he keeps saying that, and why would he say that? Well, you typically don't cut a player when he's hurt, so they like him to get healthy, and then they'll make a decision whether they'll cut him or not, or by a major miracle trade him. No one's going to take his contract. It's just not going to happen. Unfortunately, the Eagles, Josh, owe him just under $11.5 million. It's really not a tradable contract. It's just a matter of are you going to cut him in August? You're going to cut him in October? No one could say for sure when a surgically repaired foot will get back to normal, and that's the problem in terms of him playing this season. But they rolled over his option. He had a fully guaranteed option bonus, I'm told, of $1.59 million. His base salary of $9.91 million is fully guaranteed. So, they owe him over $11 million, and no matter whether he's on the team or not. So there's no urgency. That's what I would take out of what Howie said there. Clearly, there's no urgency to cut him right now.
How much is the situation with Alshon and them having to wait with him influencing what they wanted to do or what they could have done, whether it's through trades and free agency with the wide receiver position?
Well, the problem is had he not suffered that broken foot, he had the Les Franck injury, which is about as bad as it gets. That injury is when the midfoot separates. It's not a natural break, which your typical broken foot you'll be back in 8 to 10 weeks. Well, this is a 9 to 12 month rehab. This is what by the way that running backs coach Deuce Staley had in 2000. I was one of the first. Actually, it's the first time I'd heard of that injury. Now, God, it's 20 years ago. The 2000 season, so it's just a matter of they're not counting on him, and it's really not going to matter whether he's on the roster or not. They're going to be very aggressive in the draft with it. They're going to draft 2 receivers, maybe even 3, and those guys are going to have to play. I mean, it's going to be Deshaun Jackson, it's going to be Greg Ward competing for the slot receiver job, and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, and whatever he gives them, plus 2 to 3 rookies. That's really going to be their receiver group this season.
You use the word aggressive. Does aggressive include possibly trading up to get a said receiver in the first round?
I doubt it, unless they drop, unless one of the top 3 drops close enough. It is the way I understand it is they just traded away 20% of the draft bounty last week in the Darius Slay trade. They went from 10 to 8 draft picks. They want to finish the draft with at least 8. They want to have used 8 picks. They're really not looking to get rid of picks. So I don't see it. I really don't see it. I don't see that happening. It would have to take an extraordinary situation where one of the top 3 receivers drops to, let's say, 18, at least 18. They like 6 or 7 receivers that they should have a chance of getting at 21. So if anything, I think they would trade down, not up.
Adam Caplan joining us on the Boardwalk on the hotline on 97.3 ESPN. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Caplan NFL. What the Eagles have done this offseason, Adam, is defense, signing Will Parks, trading for Darius Slay, bringing back Jalen Mills and Rodney McLeod. My first question about the defense is, do you think that the emphasis this offseason has specifically been to possibly reshape the future of the defense and not just focus on the 2020 season?
Yeah, well, just so your listeners understand, Josh, the free agency is about immediate needs. The draft is never about immediate needs. It's always about the future, and hopefully you get something out of that player in year one. But it's always about 4 to 6 years. That's what you're looking for to get out of each draft pick. Clearly, when it's a quarterback, you're looking for 10 and 12 years if you get it right, like Carson Wentz, like the Eagles have so far. But, yeah, I would say that, look, their decision was to go relatively young with Hargrave, who's a relatively young player. In their front seven, they've gotten younger. But the secondary, it's been interesting. We reported back at the Combine that the Eagles want to bring Rodney McLeod back, and they did with a 2-year deal, which listen to our show on Monday, Inside the Birds. We're going to go over all the Eagles contracts. Surprising contract. The Eagles guaranteed some money in the second year. That surprised me. Jalen Mills is back. Who's a young player. Jatavius Brown is a young player who's going to compete for an outside linebacker job. But Darius Slay is 29. He just turned 29. Will Parks is a young player. So for the most part, to answer your question, they've clearly gotten younger. With Malcolm Jenkins leaving, they obviously got younger. But what they're doing, and this has been really the MO of the Eagles since Harry Roseman took over in 2010, and he's been pretty consistent with this. There is always going to be a mixture of older and younger players in this roster. They're not willing to go all young. That's not the way they see doing things.
On the Inside the Birds podcast, one of the things that you and Jeff do is dig a little bit deeper than just the surface of a lot of these stories. And the one thing that keeps swirling around in my mind, you guys brought this up when the news came down about a month or so ago, and now it's swirling in my head the last week. What is the impact of the new defensive backs coach, Marco Emanuel, on some of these moves and what they could possibly be doing with the defense in 2020? Well, what I'd said was I'd been hearing that you're going to see some differences in schematics of their defense. They're still going to run a 43 wide 9. But you're going to see some difference, particularly in the secondary with Marco Emanuel, as you said, being the defensive backs coach. They could be more aggressive. They've got better speed now in the secondary with Darius Slay, and Vontae Maddox is going to play more. Now, the question is, will he be starting on the outside? Right now, he would be if the season started today, but it doesn't start today. It starts minimum 6 months from now, Josh, and it could be longer. Who knows? And they're going to draft at least one corner. They might draft two. They'll draft a corner as early as the second round. So the way I understand it, they want Maddox on the field. Is it going to be starting on the outside? Are they going to use him at safety? We don't know that. We're not going to know. But right now, he's going to play corner. But overall, I know the Eagles are really excited about their new D-line coaches. They've got 2 new guys who are going to be in the room. They've got a new defensive backs coach. They don't have a new offense coordinator, but they have a lot more. They have a lot more voices on offense, Josh. There have been 7 changes on their coaching staff this season. That's a lot. How surprised or not surprised are you how the Eagles have been more aggressive on the defensive side of the ball than the offensive side of the ball in the last couple of weeks? I reported for our show at the Combine that the Eagles were not going to go after any free agent receivers. I just couldn't believe it when I heard that. But that's what's happened. Look, their defense was not good last season. Their secondary was atrocious. Way too many big plays given up. As Howie Roseman said, the Eagles general manager, this week in one of his interviews, he said, look, they were sick of seeing balls go over the DB's head, and that was going to be a change. So that's kind of what you see here now. Is the chance to just kind of revamp the secondary. And I'm really anxious to see how this is going to look. But, Josh, we don't know when we're going to be able to watch this because we don't know when they're going to have OTAs and an offseason. They probably won't have an offseason. Yeah, speaking of that, I did want to ask you as well before I let you go. You do cover the entire NFL as well, not just the Eagles. So what were your thoughts on Roger Goodell saying, hey, we're staying on schedule, NFL draft, this is going to be business as usual, despite some of the GM saying, hey, can we push this back?
Yeah, look, I know this is not a positive for NFL GMs and personnel people. They would rather have more time to gather more information because they can't work any players out. They like more clarity, but unfortunately, the draft's going to happen with. By the way, though, I'm told some teams did work players out right after the combine. So, and also we're able to have players visit their complex, but majority of the teams did not. And that what they're doing now, Josh, is they're going on Skype and Zoom. That's the way they're doing these interviews.
Could we see possibly more misfires in the draft this year because maybe some of this, they have a little bit less information, some of these GMs?
Yes, absolutely. Look, they're going to have to rely on their area scouts, their scouting directors, who are the ones who are digging up the information. Yeah, they're going to have to because they can't bring them in their own building. The Eagles, for instance, here's where it's important. Did you interview that player at the Combine or Senior Bowl? Well, the Eagles, I'm told, had a formal interview with KJ Hamler. This is a guy, by the way, did not work out at the Combine. That's really important that they got a chance to talk to him because at 21, I would think he would be in play. So that's something to keep an eye on during the draft.
Follow him on Twitter at Caplan NFL for all your NFL news. SiriusXM NFL Radio. Also, check out the Inside the Birds podcast. Him, Jeff Mosher, the best Eagles podcast out there for all your news and information all off season long. Because Adam, it looks like the NFL is they're not sitting on their hands; they're staying active.
They are. The first week of free agency is always crazy, and then it's slowed down. It's nothing like the NBA free agency. It's less intense, but it's very, very quick. The big part of it's usually just 2 or 3 days, and that's what's happened so far.
Adam, I appreciate you jumping on today.
You got it. Thank you.